Well, hello, how are you doing? That caught me on the hop. It's the old git here. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day. I'm not having a good day actually, because again, I had to come and make another video, rapido, as they would say over here in Spain. By the way, it's beautiful over here again today. It was about 27 degrees, and it's nice to be out in the sun. And it's more like I could hope for a good winter, which is more than I can say for pensioners, because I'm back on the pensioner thing now. And I've just put these pictures here, yes, by the side of me, of the culprits who hopefully will get voted down, and they will not take the pensioners' winter fuel allowance away from them. And we'll be going into that in a bit more depth. But these three people here have absolutely no remorse when questioned by the press and everybody else. It's absolutely the right thing to do, they say. Well, it's not. And you know it's not. And I know it's not. And everybody else knows it's not. But just think about these pensioners that could be dying over the winter. Around about 4,000 of them, so I've been told. And just to remind you that I did a video a little while back, a couple of weeks or weeks ago, about the same thing, but not going into it as much depth as I am now. And the fact is that these three and few more in the Labour Party, for me, it's a punishment, because pensioners don't usually vote for Labour. Or so they say. I don't know. Well, what I do know is if they stick to their guns and they stop the winter fuel allowance, and they stop also the single occupants aid that people get, pensioners will be struggling, and indeed someone will die. Now, just to remind you how hard it is for some pensioners, I did play this clip before. I'm just going to play it again, just to remind you out there. And I'm speaking particularly now to the younger generation, the Z generation, or whatever you call yourselves these days, or whatever gender you are, whatever, these people, the Z generation. I'm talking to you, because you need to know some home truths, which I'll be telling you in a minute. But first, let's remind ourselves of how hard it will be for some pensioners this winter.
Nobody wants to queue for a food bank at any stage of their lives. But imagine, like Brenda, having to do it at the age of 78 with the ability to earn long gone. Or 68-year-old Michael, who's worked all his life on the London Underground and says he has £25 a week in spare cash.
Can you imagine that life would be like this?
No, not at all. I thought I was going to live comfortably. What I have to do is boil water every time I want to shave or have a proper wash.
The food bank can trigger a range of emotions.
Are you struggling?
Too much.
1 in 5 pensioners are in poverty, and after 2 years and counting of a pandemic which picks off the most frail amongst the elderly, the cost of living adds to their loneliness and anxiety.
I think it goes back to their experiences often of being brought up in wartime, and the experience of there not being enough to go around and having to, to make do.
Time and again, people are turning to their communities. These are volunteers brought together by unprecedented need in extraordinary times.
Thank you.
Their first call is to a 92-year-old man who hasn't been out since last October. Richard needs the lights on all day because his flat is so dark. His oxygen machine runs constantly. It's all racking up energy costs.
Hello, my friend. How are you keeping?
The volunteers have brought him food and company.
We're isolated now from the rest of the community within our own building.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you.
Next, there's a book to deliver to Doreen.
Oh, that's a keepsake.
At 74, she can't afford to put the central heating on. Instead, there's 1 bar of the electric fire on in 1 room.
The other night, I went to bed and I
felt lovely. And then about 2 o'clock in the morning, I thought, I've left the heating on, so I've had to come all the way down on the stair lift to turn the heating off, and then you wake up freezing cold.
Do you find it all quite depressing?
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's getting even worse now.
What's worrying is the long-term impact on the elderly.
A lot of people, because of the poverty that they face, will lead to premature earlier death because of them not being able to feed themselves or clothe themselves or keep themselves warm adequately.
Living in fear of poverty for an increasing number of pensioners, what should be their golden years, have lost their sparkle.
Well, that's just to remind you that that's how some and quite a lot of pensioners are living. They're living in very difficult circumstances, and some of them, if things continue the way they are, and this ridiculous Labour Party get their way, it'll be great. They'll be saving on pension money because people will die early. They don't have to pay it out. It's ridiculous. And what I've found out through my research is there's a lot of these young fools, as I call them, out there that think, oh no, why should we be paying out of our hard-earned cash now, our tax, why should we pay for pensions? Well, there's a good reason why, and I said earlier that I'll tell you why in a minute or two. And I come across a few of these people who say that pensioners don't deserve a pension, that pensioners should have saved in their early days when they were working to take care of themselves during the rest of their life when they retire. Very sick way to think. And I've just picked on one because this particular gentleman, before I put on the video and what he said, and it's going to shock you when you think of a 24-year-old who looks like a refugee from the Mod Squad, a throwback of some kind, a 24-year-old talking the way he's talking about pensioners, and pensioners should be entitled to nothing. And I've got to attribute this clip to Talk TV and Peter Carswell. I mean, I could have got another one. I think he was also interviewed by James Whale, and James Whale actually threw him off the programme, I think, well, as he would. So I want you to look at this guy, and this is only one of a few, because I've heard a few now, young commentators, young political advisors in the 20s and 30s saying, oh, the pensions are a burden on society, it's all about the economy and the rest of it. Well, again, I'm going to shut my mouth and let you watch this fella explaining why pensioners shouldn't even get a pension.
Yes, and I think they're right to blame the previous government. If you look at the budget deficit, it's £122 billion, and the interest on the national debt is £43 billion or £46 billion. So the Conservatives are to blame for that. Even before the COVID spending, the deficit was rising under Boris Johnson, was at about £50 billion. He had undone the efforts that George Osborne and David Cameron had put in place in the previous 9 years. So I think they are right to blame the previous government, and I look forward to the spending cuts that they're going to announce in October. The tax rises, I'm not so fond of. I think it's a great shame that the party of sound public finances is attacking the Labour Party for making the tough decisions over winter fuel allowance and other things to bring down the deficit. It's not the right thing to do. It's very, very clearly attempting to score cheap points over the Labour Party as opposed to putting forward the national interest, which is what a proper party would be doing. They should be backing the measures that Labour is making that are
You believe the tough measures, as you call them, and getting rid of winter fuel allowance for 10 million pensioners is the right thing to do?
Absolutely. It's
Why?
the best thing they have done, because people do not need this money. They're not entitled
I tell you something, there are
to
plenty
it.
of pensioners who've contacted me who do need the money.
Yeah, well, I don't believe them.
You don't believe them?
I don't believe them. So if you look at the bottom quintile of pensioners, they spend 17.8% of their income on hotels, restaurants, cigarettes and alcohol. That's the equivalent of £2,100 for them. If you take away the £200 winter fuel allowance from those people, they would only have to cut that expenditure, which could only be described as leisure expenditure, by 10%.
Now that is
When one of your texters talks about heating or eating, I don't believe he's telling the truth. And for those tiny minority...
There are a number of people who would find that an outrageous comment.
But I'm talking about the bottom 20% of pensioners, and it should be remembered that the very, very, very poorest pensioners, the 1 million pensioners who still receive pension credit, will carry on receiving the winter fuel allowance.
But essentially you're saying, but Charles, you're saying to pensioners who enjoy a fag or a drink, give that up. But if you can't afford things, I mean, are you honestly saying people should stop smoking? I think everybody should. So they should give up any luxury they have.
No,
a cigarette that gets them through the day.
I'm saying that they should reduce their leisure expenditure by 10%. In fact, less than 10%. Reduce it down from £2,100 to £1,900. That's not much to ask. People are not entitled to force other people to give up the fruits of their labour so they can go on holiday or they can have a pint of beer down the pub. People should stand on their own 2 feet, and this is part of making people stand on their own 2 feet. Ideally, we shouldn't even have a state pension system. Everybody should have a private pension.
So you shouldn't have a state pension system?
No, not
really?
at all. People should support themselves on their own 2 feet with a private pension.
What about disabled people? Should they just fend for themselves?
Ideally, charities should support those people, or they...
Are you saying, sorry, Charles, are you saying there shouldn't be state benefits for people who are disabled?
Yes.
Why? What's your possible logic for that? People who can't quite literally stand on their own 2 feet. People who, through no fault of their own, are in a situation where they need a handout from the state to survive.
People are entitled to their private property, to the fruits of their labour, and it is wrong for the state to forcefully take that private property from them. Just as we do not accept that charities such as Oxfam can thieve from individuals to support starving Africans in that continent, neither should we accept that private individuals should have their private property stolen from them by the state to support people such as disabled people in their lives. If people want to do that, they can give to charity, but it is wrong to threaten people with prison if they don't give up their income to those individuals. A free society is one where we respect people's private property. The state doesn't do that.
I quite like a society where we respect people who can't look after themselves.
I think you got the gist of that. I hope you got the gist of that. Now, he's only one of a few that I've researched. I'm not going to put them all on because I don't think they deserve airtime. How dare he say that pensioners don't deserve a pension? They pay in all their life and they want their pension. And according to the 3 Muppets that keep flashing up on your screen, you know, they say country first, people first, party last. People first is what it's all about. It doesn't matter that it's costing the country whatever it's costing them, because I think majority of people in the country are quite happy to fund pensions and give people a better end of life enjoyment, shall we say, even though may even put the retirement age to 71. They're edging their bets. They just want your money, but they don't want to pay. And if they kill off at 4,000, that's 4,000 pensions they're going to save, which is really ridiculous. It's horrible. And there's many people that think like that guy. His name is Charles Amos, by the way, if you want to look him up. And Peter Carswell, who was talking to him there, is a very level-headed, very equal type of guy. He doesn't fall one side or the other. He's very in the middle, and he lets people have their say. But when I watched him doing this interview, even his face was sort of looking in total disdain over what he was seeing. But you know, well done to Peter Carswell for highlighting that type of person exists who wants to take your pension. Now we get on, say, we'll ask the question, shall we? Where does your pension come from? Or where does it come from?
Say hello to your future self. Years from now, you'll be able to retire. Plenty of you time, and absolutely no more work. But where will your money come from? will you pay for food and fun stuff?
Well, where will your money come from? I'll tell you where it comes from. It comes from where you've paid in, like I've just said. But let's go back and look at the philosophy of that young man there, 24 years old, thinks he knows everything. When my parents went to work and brought me up, they had no resentment for paying tax and for paying into the pension. They never thought that pensioners got too much. They were always happy when pensioners got more. Because at the end of the day, my parents and their parents brought up the likes of me, my parents and me. What did they do for me? They contributed, not just by contributing a payment of their tax for their future. They bought things for me, okay, and they bought things for their family, and they paid tax on them. If they had a holiday, which many couldn't afford in when I was young, they paid tax on everything they bought. They also paid in to help with the education system and for the police, and they paid in. Nobody resents that. And if you look at how much people paid in my father's times and my grandfather's times, it was relevant to how much they got paid. People getting 3,000 and 4,000 a month now, they weren't getting that then. When I first started work, personally, I'm now 71, I got £4 2 and sixpence in old money for my first wage packet. So, and I paid tax. I had to pay tax out of that. Okay? If you see, it's relevant to how the proportion of the tax they paid was proportional to what they got paid in wages. What do you expect that they were going to put the whole £5 that I were into the tax because you greedy young pups who've got no responsibility, care nothing about anything except yourself? No. Absolutely wrong. All of you are wrong. You should be happy that the last days of a person's life when they retire should be happy. Not that they can't go and buy themselves a packet of fags if they smoke, or go down to the pub for a drink with their mates, or even afford a holiday. But even on the pension they get today, they can't. And I want to bring something else up here, because you think they give a lot of pension to us, to the British people. Well, let's have a close look at where we are in the pension charts in Europe, shall we? Let's have a look. Here we go. I'm going to get a bit closer because my eyes are going. Now, this is based on, the pensions, how they're paid. And if you look down to near the bottom, number 15 is where the United Kingdom are. Now, I don't know, probably you can see it's very less, but all this is going to be an example. If you can go and get this chart yourself, is if you look at the top, at Luxembourg, it's 5,000 a month. If you come down to Spain, where I live, it's 2,200 a month. Okay, if you even go down to some of the East European countries, they're still paying a lot more. When England pay 958, I can't see, probably got the wrong glasses on, but that chart is available, and if you look for it, you can find it. So we're 15th. We're supposed to be one of the 5th richest countries or the 5th richest country in the world. I don't know if we still rated at that. And yet we're 15th in paying and taking care of our elderly. You should be ashamed of yourself, even thinking that old people should have to worry about their retirement. As I said, the next thing you'll be saying is, oh well, probably we'll give you a voucher when you get to 72 to go to be euthanized. You are disgusting. All you young people will get old one day and you will understand. And people who say, oh well, you should have been putting money away. When you have a family, when you're paying out all the money you can, when you're paying rent and tax all through your life, some people can't put money away. Just can't. Impossible. Low paid jobs. But they did the jobs and they worked. And they put you young whippersnappers, you Generation Z as you call yourselves, through school and clothed you and changed your backside when you were a baby, took you to the doctors. They did everything for you. And when you cannot pay for them to enjoy the last part of their life, you should be ashamed of yourself. I cannot understand why people have to behave like that. I'll take this down because I want to remind you more. These three people in this new government are robbing you blind, and they're destroying society in many ways. But the way that I'm caring about, and the thing that's big on my mind, is pensioners. Okay, I'm a pensioner, but I'm okay. I'm not rich, far from it. But I don't ask anybody for anything, and most pensioners won't ask. They'll sit and freeze to death before they'll ask, because they have pride. That's something else that you young ones do not have. You have pride. You don't have pride in yourself. You don't have pride in your country. You have no pride in your elders. Society is becoming the pits. That's all I can say. Well, I've had me rants. I hope I've upset some people. I really do, because some people read to be upset. So all I can say to you now is basically, to the pensioners, I hope they overturn this law they're going to bring to reduce your fuel allowance and single occupancy and all the rest of it. And hope we could get back to English values and understand that the country can afford to pay you. The basic thing is they don't want to pay you. They only want to punish you because you don't vote for them. Well, you'll see a lot of the middle-aged people also won't be voting for them again. In fact, a lot of people won't be voting for them. Anyway, I've finished. That's my rant for today. Until the next time, have a good day and stay safe. See you soon.
Thank you.